that we've started the show, and then I'll start talking. Okay, I want to update you all about where I stand as an investor, my opinion on the markets. Um, I'm not the kind of investor that has, well, a pure value investor where I can say, look, I have stocks that pay good dividends, and well, if the valuation goes up, that's good, and then I make extra money. But if it doesn't go up, I still make my dividends, and so all is well. No, because my goal is to have an average return, compound annual growth rate of 20%, and if you just have to count on dividends, you won't make it. So you do have to target value appreciation, invest in those things that go up in value, and so that's my goal. My goal is also to have a portfolio that's, I call it the Holy Grail portfolio, that protects me in the different climates and is not too volatile, does not go down too much in drawdowns, because that just makes life a lot harder. And I've really failed in that regard. I succeeded since I started tracking my returns in 2008 to have still a 20% compound annual growth rate, but it's been extremely volatile. And I want to change that, and I have to admit that I've not really succeeded in that yet. I thought that the portfolio that I had been building in starting 2023, where I had my last tremendous drawdown in 2022 of 95%, I really wanted to build a portfolio that can weather the storms, and I thought that I had achieved that a lot better than what has happened recently. So recently the market's corrected strongly, you could say 20%, and crypto maybe 30%, from a high of 4 trillion to a low of 2.5 trillion. That's almost 40%. But my own portfolio is cut in half, minus 50%, even though I have at the low, even though I have crypto up for about half, and then I have some other things, like I still have an investment in Tesla calls, and I have commodities, quite big position, 20%, which is mainly oil and a little bit of nuclear. But all of these went down together recently, and so not only did crypto correct strong in January, but also Tesla corrected strong, and also oil corrected strong. And the things that went up or stayed flat, I had too little of. I cashed only at 5% or so. And gold, I refused to invest in it, and that was one of the few investments that actually went up. And other investments that are not correlated, such as managed futures, for example. Actually, I never dived into that, so I don't know what that is, but I don't have it also. Or real estate, that can be a lot more stable. I also don't have that. Or bonds, I also don't have that. Certain bonds did keep their value. So I was really not pleased with myself a month ago, looking at again a 50% drawdown from the top, and it's not even a strong correction. Like S&P 500 corrected from 6,100 to 4,800, 4,900. I mean, this was absolutely expected to happen sooner or later, and crypto, even if it's in a bull market, it went from a low of 1 trillion at the start of 2023 to 4 trillion. Of course, it's going to fall back to 3 trillion or 2 trillion even as possible. And I mean, I wasn't protected against it. I thought really hard in December, actually, what can I sell? And I did sell a big position of my Tesla fund, because that did go up. Actually, I sold about, that Tesla fund went up from a 10% exposure to 30% exposure or so. And I did sell the majority, so about 10-20%, of my total portfolio went out of Tesla funds and into other things, such as some. But that's where the problem lays. What I should have done is I should have locked in these profits, and I should have been patient. But I wasn't. I reinvested immediately. A little bit in extra crypto, like Zano. I doubled up in the commodity fund, and then I have a little bit of cash over left only, and that was not the right move because Zano corrected strong from a high of crypto in general, corrected strong, Zano as well, and the other position, well, the commodity fund, was very disappointing because, that's a typical example of a value fund where the biggest position is in a stock called Valaris, which is a oil rig, oil rigs that you have in the ocean, services company that trades at a like 2 or 3 or 4 PE ratio, and since oil rigs produce the cheapest oil, cheaper than all the others, they are very likely to stay in business and to continue to have a need for service providers, and that this service provider Valaris is trading way below its replacement cost of just the equipment it has, of ships that it has to go fix oil rigs. So, but what happens? It corrected from 40 to 30 during this correction, because oil corrected also. Typical for a recession / depression scenario is that energy will correct a lot, and this is not nothing even. Oil corrected only a little bit. During COVID, oil went negative. Like this was nothing. It was just a small correction. But my fund or my investment in commodities, corrected also 20% down. And quite disappointed with that. And it's of course my own fault. I could have seen this coming. But I was too stubborn. I refused to invest in gold. That was my biggest mistake. And I refused to also be patient. Because if I would have just been patient and I have like 20% cash, and I can wait till you do have a correction, because the S&P was at 6,000, and I'm just like, actually I also reinvest in Tesla fund. That was also a big reinvestment. So Tesla had around $400. I sold a big piece of my fund, and then when it corrected to $300, I already reinvested a big piece, but like S&P 500 was still at 6,000. I should have been more patient. I should have said like, okay, Tesla corrected strong, but the total stock market didn't correct yet, and I should really wait for that before I redeploy this capital. And I didn't do so, and that has caused me to have a 50% drawdown again. So that's how it is, and that's a pity. So now going forward, I only have a small cash position of 5%, and I'm using that slowly just for expenses, living expenses. And I'm looking at, like, I've been interested to invest in emerging markets like Argentina. I've done some research there, like Chinese EV companies, done some research there too. But I have not triggered. I have not bought anything during this correction, that's of course because I had little cash to deploy, I found these investments to not be convincing enough for me to invest. Argentina, the problem is the selections I have found, they already quadrupled since Milei got elected. And recently they corrected strong, but they are back up now. Like the correction was short-lived, and they are back up, and they still have fourfolded since basically 1.5 years ago. Like I just can't pull the trigger on that. It's a selection of banks that, according to many metrics, are the best selection, but they have fourfolded. I just find that extremely hard to invest also then. And Chinese EV companies, the problem there is that it's China. And there are some very big positives about China. China stock market is valued cheaply. It's the same valuation as 30 years ago. That's really a probably generational low. And you also have that they finally, their real estate bubble has popped, because that was always for me an argument not to invest in China because valuations were extreme. And that has been cut by 50% now. That's very good. And of course, sentiment around China is now very negative with the tariff trade war. So these are the positives, but the negatives I see about investing in China are still there, which is that the Communist Party is really an immoral party that has caused the COVID pandemic upon all of us, and that is just very dishonest. The population that they claim to have of 1.3 billion people is very likely a lie and needs to be cut by half for various, I believe it to be likely that China only has a population of 800 million. And this is just due to an accumulation of lies and lies and lies, but also what they did during COVID was just scandalous, to lock people in their apartment for 2 years for no good reason. And other things they do is like just kidnap business leaders, like the leader of Jack Ma, Alibaba, and destroy not only his business but also his life. I find these very immoral things, and that's why I just can't pull the trigger on China. So yeah, but of course it's very likely I'll be proven wrong. There are many other positives about China, like the trade they do around the world. They are the biggest trading partner for most countries now, and well, you know, that's admirable. And also they are the biggest investor in most countries. In Africa you see that very clearly. They give big loans to African countries that allows them to build infrastructure projects such as highways and train roads and ports, and this is a win-win for both, I believe. So they do a lot of things right, but the things they do wrong are, yeah, just too much. So XGUM, nice to see you, man. American equities, I'm overall bearish, because American stocks have reached at the end of 2024 a historical market share, and sadly I didn't play that trade well. I did sell my Tesla there, but I did not reinvest in Europe, which you had to be very courageous, but you've been rewarded greatly now. Only in 3-4 months you're up 20% in US dollar terms. If you would have invested in Europe, I did not do that, even though I did see that as an opportunity. But me, I'm not attracted to Europe at all, but emerging markets, it's quite similar, I believe, but I've not checked those numbers. But like Argentina, China, I don't know if they are up for the year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are. So no, I'm not bullish in S&P 500, but I am invested actually only in basically American equities, but they are not the S&P 500 with the exception of Tesla. And I do believe Tesla is an exception here. That does just, is still likely to go up, but that's not true for the average American company, especially if they are large cap. But I'm also invested in small, in micro caps. I have two positions there, a position following Marius, and that's like 5 micro caps. And also I'm invested in a micro cap fund that's managed by Iron Castle. And actually that position, but it's a very small position, did not lose money during this correction. That's one of the few of mine, my investments that did not lose money. So that's good. And if I can, I'll invest more in that in the future. But my position right now, and why I also want to do this live show, is that I've put a lot of time in analyzing whether I should be bullish or bearish, because this correction was scary and it can get a lot worse. But what's the probability? And I've come to the conclusion that the probability is not high. The probability is a lot higher that actually markets will go up again. And I have to do a special thank to someone I discovered new. His name is Mel Mattison. I've linked him also in the description here. And he has a Twitter channel. He has done great interviews and about his vision on the markets. And he's one of the few that actually really predicted this correction to the letter. And also the argumentation he gives why he believes that markets will go up and we will be at 7,000 at the end of 2025 for the S&P 500 is that inflation. Inflation is a bitch, and the Trump administration will inflate their way out of this debt problem. It is, and that's becoming clear now also. They are not, even though they talk big on saving money and austerity, and with the Doge initiative cutting back on fraud and waste, and but actually what you also see is that they actually increase the military budget, and that actually the savings on the left are already gone on the right, and that will cause a continued large deficit for the United States, and therefore but that's actually bullish for the market, because if you would do a true austerity program where you truly cut back on government expenses, actually that would likely cause a correction in the stock market as well, because it's actually these days it's not been the Fed the past few years. Only in COVID, of course, they raised the amount of money in circulation a lot, but since then they've cut back the Federal Reserve and they've taken money out of circulation every year. But that's not the case with the United States government. They have continued to increase the amount of debt that they hold and spend this. And of course that raises valuations all around. That's actually likely to continue. But it's not tenable. The market is starting to really not want to buy US treasuries. You can see that interest rates continue to go up, continue to be high, and if you just let the free market operate, likely interest rates of US treasuries will continue to go up, because the finances of the US government are a total disaster. Deficits of 7% per year or so. So how will this be resolved? Well, very likely with just unexpected inflation. That's how they did it in the past. Explains Mel Mattison very well. And he estimates also that real inflation is around 5-6%. And that's likely how they'll continue to do it in the future. And so what they will do is they will just monetize the debt again. So the Fed will just start to expand their balance sheet again, either just gradually or if there's another crisis moment in big steps, but they will just buy up all those US treasuries that are in the market and people are dumping to avoid interest rates to go up, and that way expand the money supply. And that will cause again massive inflation, just like we saw after COVID, and prices double in a couple of years. And that's true for many prices, but also for stock prices and real estate. And I think that's indeed the most likely scenario, and therefore it's always the same story. Those that are frugal and those that are careful and those that have big cash positions or invest in bonds get punished, and savings accounts, those get punished, and those that are in hard assets get rewarded, because inflation does not impact them, and that's likely to continue. So yeah, that was my monologue. I don't have many responses here. It's a bit holiday fever, so maybe that's why. Yeah, shoot your question, because otherwise I'm going to end this live show and and I'll keep it short. I hope Xgum that answered your question. Let me try to maybe see if there are any questions on Twitter. No, there are no questions on Twitter. So Blue Alien asks, what do you think about the crypto cycle? Yes, I didn't discuss that. Thanks for bringing it up, Blue Alien. I didn't sell any crypto around the top of 4 trillion end of 2025 and beginning of 2024. The reason being that I don't think it's likely at all that we reach the top in the crypto cycle. The strongest argument against that, I believe, is that the dominance of Bitcoin BTC has continued to go up the past few years, and in the past that never happened before, that a crypto cycle ends without BTC losing a massive amount of market share. This has not happened, to end up from around 20% to around 60%, and that's likely not the end of it. There are a bunch of other indicators that you can also highlight, but there are also some strong counter arguments, true, but overall I think that no, it's not likely. But for that, of course, overall markets need to continue to go up. It's true that there's been a little bit of a disconnect here, and that crypto has been relatively strong versus S&P 500, but you could also just say, like, they just move not at the same time, but they take a month in between to do their thing. I mean, crypto is still corrected from 4 trillion to 3 trillion, and S&P 500 from 6,000 to 5,000. I mean, it's the same story, huh? If you look at it a little bit longer than on a daily basis or a monthly basis, but on a quarterly basis, it's pretty much the same story, huh? So they are certainly not inversely correlated yet, but still strongly correlated, I would say. So for crypto to complete its cycle, the stock market also needs to continue to be bullish, and go up. And that was what was missing the past quarter, but that's likely to come back. And then I think crypto will continue, and the next stage will likely be alts, that will flourish, and not BTC. The hype is also extreme. People are extremely positive about BTC and extremely negative about the second biggest Ethereum, as well as all the others. But you can see that, with the exception of Ethereum, that does show lots of weakness in its price, but some others are pretty okay, I would say. Don't go party too quickly, but Monero, for example, has bottomed out a long time ago at $150, and that's actually quite stable, I would say, around the current $200 for already a couple of years. Did not recover strong, because Ethereum went during that same time from 1,000 to 4,000 and is now back at 2,000 or 1,600, 700. So that's been more volatile, but Ethereum strongly corrected back. But yeah, okay, I do see a problem with Ethereum. Scaling is a problem. Like, they've really, I don't understand the technicals. So some people, they say that actually they couldn't do anything else with this kind of technology that they use, EMS. They actually can't scale on chain, so they do have to work via second layers. But yeah, I'm still invested 10% in BCH. Ethereum, I'm still invested 15%. I have also a Zano position now of 10%, and overall I'm around 50% crypto. So yeah, I still am very bullish on that. I think there are a lot of macro drivers that will also increase the chances for crypto to really be strong. It is the first time now that the US government is also behind crypto and not working against it. And the institutions, the regulators of the United States also now with the SEC and the Department of Justice, and of course they have not dropped all cases, but they dropped half of the cases against crypto people. Still have to do the other half, including Roger Ver. But yeah, the Trump administration is very supportive of crypto, and that's very good. But also, just indeed, the world is changing, and we go to a multipolar world, and that really plays in the cards of crypto. I was reading that actually Russia and China are now trading oil with Bitcoin, and due to the war in Ukraine, many Russians that do not live in Russia, to avoid the draft, live in Dubai and other places where they actually use a lot of crypto. They have to, because they don't have access to banks anymore, Russian citizens. So you see that these things really are going up. So yeah, still very bullish on crypto. But there are some new kids on the block that do take the light out of crypto, which is of course AI, artificial intelligence. And I was sharing also on X that I'm actually most impressed by these ChatGPT and Grok and other AI agents that you can talk to. This is the biggest innovation I've seen the past few years. And of course you have also full self-driving, cars driving on their own. I think that's very impressive also. That's also something of the past few years. And you know, that has nothing to do with crypto. Crypto is a bit getting old, and has really failed in certain areas also to really be of value to the people. But of course, mostly that in the West it's not used at all as a currency. And in Europe, Western Europe, America, people don't use crypto as a currency, and because they don't have to, because the benefits are too low, and so it's only an investment vehicle, and that includes myself also. I stopped using crypto because it's just too much hassle. I also invest in it, but yeah, I would say that is an argument against it. Actually, I do use it for wages, but I don't use it for spending. So Blue Alien says that sell in May and go away, or not this time? No, I'm not selling in May and go away. Blue Alien says, I agree, but I fear this time is different, possibly. The cycle of BTC only. Thank you. No, I went through that. I really don't think that's likely. No, this time is not different. Very likely. The reason why BTC is pumping very well is that, with all this talk about big BTC reserve, and Mel Mattison explains that very well also, is that it's possible that the plan of the Federal Reserve is to actually start also buying cryptocurrencies, BTC as the biggest one then, or maybe even BTC only, as a reserve, because they want to redefine the financial system, and this could be their strategy to basically be ahead of the rest of the world, because the rest of the world, China, Russia, the Middle East, they have all stashed up in gold, and the West is pretty weak in gold reserves. And how can you be ahead of them? Well, by innovating faster than them. If you're the first one as a central bank to have BTC and possibly other cryptos as a reserve, well, you're one step ahead, and they have to now buy what you already bought, and that's to your profit, and that's possible that that's starting to happen now, and that's what causes BTC to be extraordinarily strong during this cycle, because of course They have lots of purchasing power, central banks, and of course they are dumb institutions, and they probably would be buying only BTC to start out with, instead of buying a bunch of them, which would be a smarter approach. My Gouda. But the arguments why I believe it's likely that we also will have an altcoin cycle is the same arguments I've repeated for all my career here. 10 years actually now I've given these arguments. So those are the arguments that this is just a free market of currencies, nothing more, nothing less, and private currencies, and it's the same as with the fall of communism. You had only a few centralized big government companies, and then suddenly you allow the free market in, and now everybody can start a company. And of course these big government companies, monopolies, will fall and will be replaced by many free market competitors, and that's the same is going to happen in currencies now. And so people are thinking way too much from the perspective of the old, which is, oh, you have only one currency in every country. No, that's communism. That's over. Like the US dollar will not be replaced by one cryptocurrency. No, it will be replaced by a whole market of currencies, private currencies, and with all different qualities, different kind of qualities. And probably the leaders are not invented yet. Every 30 years, the stock market, the biggest stocks are just totally shaken up. Like the leaderboard continues to change over time, and that's what we likely will get now with private currencies also. My guide out. Good morning, Maisel. I've been a follower from X since 2021. I've seen you tilt from talking about BCH to talking more about Zano. What's your stance on Zano, and why are you bullish on it? Yeah, so BTC, and I could be wrong, BCH, Bitcoin Cash, I've been very bullish about and strong promoter and investor. But yeah, I think it failed. It continues to focus on the wrong target market, which is brick and mortar merchants, and it's not able to get that going. There's no growth in that because Bitcoin Cash and cryptos in general are not competitive enough to compete with fiat payment methods, and so they can't get enough traction. And yeah, I believe cryptocurrency in the end, just like a company, needs to find a market, a niche market, where it has a clientele that uses the product or service, is very happy about it, and that's where it all starts. And the same with the cryptocurrency, it needs to have a niche market that uses this currency for payments and is very happy about it. And that's missing with Bitcoin Cash. Another way to invest in cryptocurrencies, just like with companies, you can start invest in startups, where you can say that, okay, they don't have a market yet, but they have just an idea, and it's a good idea, and it could lead to a market. And that's how I look at Zano or Zano. It is just a startup. It also does not have any clients, only investors. But it has the characteristics and properties of a cryptocurrency that might be valuable and needed for future clients, because it has standard built-in privacy, and I believe that to become more and more important. Like if you use cryptocurrencies, the point is to have privacy, and I believe that people over time will realize like these transparent blockchains are actually a liability. Tax authorities can easily dig through their history, do blockchain analysis, and that's not something anybody wants. And you have also lots of KYC, know your customer rules, where they want to see all your addresses, and then from there they do blockchain analysis, and then you can't keep anything private, and that's not so interesting. So when people think about crypto, they think they will get privacy, and I believe they will continue to want that. And of course that's in levels. I mean, Bitcoin is still a lot more private than a Visa card or a bank account in many ways. But as people become more capable of doing blockchain analysis and institutions, actually it loses its privacy more and more, and that's where privacy coins come in. But then the problem is, which privacy coin do you choose? Because the leader, Monero, is connected to the dark markets, and yeah, that's not attractive to people. They don't want to be connected to dark markets. And my personal issue with Monero is that it's been very toxic in the cryptocurrency community, and I've chosen the side at the time of during the block size wars of small blocks and of BTC small block team, and I have benefited greatly from that. And have really now helped Bitcoin Cash and others to really get market share. But they've been extremely negative towards all competitors. Words like shit coins, pre-mines, death tax, it all originates from the Monero community. So very toxic, and I don't want to invest in it for that reason. And then you have a bunch of competitors. Zano is one of them, but yeah, I like Zano because it also has private assets. Most of the privacy coins do not have private assets. You can launch your own asset, and it can be private. Also, like it's a small market cap. That's also very important because I've made big mistakes in the past. Investing in a top 5 cryptocurrency, yeah, chances are high you're gonna lose that top 5 position and lose market share, and the money is made in investing in a coin that gains market share, gains ranking. I've made that mistake a lot in the past. So, but the main reason why I started investing in it is because Roger Ver has started investing in it and promoting it, and yeah, I admire Roger Ver. I think he's a very underestimated, and of course, like marketing is very important, and you need to get the word out. And by seeing that Roger Ver is behind this, also that gives me confidence that the word will get out. So yeah, these are a bit the main story about Zano. Tech Geek says, morning Mark, what do you think we should do more, especially in Africa, in terms of pushing adoption? We are building utilities for day-to-day use of crypto, but it's hard to find support. Crypto adoption in Africa.
Why did you want to go?
My experience in Africa is that because of poverty and just like how people are, I don't think Africa will eat. What I noticed that many people that are trying to help in crypto, they basically just trying to make money, and any crypto you send them, they'll be selling for something else because they have so many other things that is more important, like feeding themselves, like paying for tuition, paying for rent, or they want to invest in real estate because capital is short there. And if you invest in real estate, you have a return of 10% rental income per year. I mean, these are a lot higher returns that you have in the West for real estate. So it's hard for them to see the opportunity of crypto because capital is very short there, and they really need the capital for other things. So I don't think it's really, you really need to flip your mind a lot if you want to be part of the crypto community and make money on that. And it's not an easy task. You need to study a lot, and I don't really have the answer.
Yeah,
Um, Steve says, long time no see, Mark. Hi, Steve. Bubu, Bilu says, end of the cycle in 2025 or longer. And we will go into 2026. Thanks for this live, Mark. Yeah, I also already answered that. Re-listen to the live show. Steve says, what are your thoughts about Solana taking over Ethereum during this cycle? Solana is beating Ethereum on all metrics except price so far. Yeah, okay, I totally missed the Solana train, and I still did not invest. So I'm very biased in this because I do invested big in Ethereum. But I believe that that's not correct to say that Solana beats in all metrics. No. For example, real world assets. When companies choose a blockchain to start something on, such as, for example, they want to use a blockchain to register assets, they will use Ethereum. Like the actual adoption for actually real use cases is in Ethereum. Ethereum is really leading there. Solana may be leading in meme coins, but yeah, that's not a durable market. That's just temporary. There's no value there, I believe, or very little. I think it's very important to know and be aware that in crypto, in every cycle, the top 10 coins, half of them are there for the only time. Like the next cycle, they'll be out of the top 10 and they'll never come back. Every cycle, it's like that. So Solana could be it's very much more likely to be also like that. Ethereum is an exception that succeeded in getting a high spot and still having a high spot and not be contested. It's not like it's almost losing its top 2 or top 3 and it's on a downhill there. No, it has a very big advantage also in price and market cap. So I wouldn't rule that out too quickly, and if you have made big gains on Solana, I would recommend to sell some and invest some in Ethereum also. Instead of selling your Ethereum for Solana. I don't believe that's likely to pan out well. Tech Geek, I have some tokens you created on Zano. Will you add some liquidity? I want to share to my community. No, I created a token just as a play token. It's called MDM Ventures. I might do nothing with that, and I'm certainly not gonna buy them off you. The numbers are changing. Maybe I will share a report with you for crypto in Africa 2024. Well, I'm not likely to read the report, but you can make I don't know what you want, but usually when people contact me from Africa, they want money, and I mean, I'm generous when I've made a lot of money, but today that's not the case. So okay, guys, I'm gonna end the live show. Thank you all for joining. Steve says the Dune on-chain adoption index tracks the level of blockchain adoption across time, taking into account normalized metrics such as transaction fees, transfer volumes. The Dune on-chain adoption index. Okay, interesting, Steve. I might check that out. The total number of transactions. Solana is now 80% of all blockchain use. Bitcoin is second. Yeah, but it's very easy to fake transactions. When transactions, especially when they are very cheap, then you can just do lots of fake transactions. I've seen that over and over, and it's likely what's happening with Solana. So that's not a metric of value. Unless transactions are expensive, such as at BTC or at Ethereum, then you can rely on that data a little bit, yes, but otherwise no. See you all, guys. Have a great day.